Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 6, Shloka 1.
Shri Bhagavanuvacha Anashrita karma phalam karyam karma karoti ya sasannyasi cha yogi cha na niragnirna chakriya.
The Supreme Lord Sri Krishna said, the people who perform their prescribed duties without any expectations or desiring the results of their actions are true sannyasis and yogis, not those who have merely given up performing sacred fire rituals or sacrifices like the Agnihotra Yagya, or have stopped doing any kind of bodily activities. Shloka 2.
Yam sanyasamiti prahuryogam tam vidhi Pandava nahya sanyasta sankalpo yogi bhavati kaschana.
Sri Krishna said, O Pandava, know that what is known as sannyas is also known as yoga, because sannyas is non-different from yoga. Sannyas is to give up worldly desires, and the meaning of yoga is to unite with the Supreme. And no one can become a yogi without renunciation of worldly desires. Shloka 3.
Arurukshor muner yogam karma karan muchyate yogarudasya tasyaiva shama karan muchyate.
For the sage or Muni who is aspiring for perfection in yoga, performance of work without attachment is said to be the means. But to the sage who is already established in yoga, tranquility in meditation is said to be the means. Shloka 4.
Yada hi nendriyartheshu na karmasvanusajjate sarvasankalpa sannyasi yogarudhastadochyate.
When a person is neither attached to objects of sense gratification, nor is he attached to any kind of fruitive activities, renouncing the egocentric will or sankalpa, he is free from all material desires. Such a person is said to be elevated in the science of yoga. Shloka 5.
Uddare datmanatmanam natmanam vasadayet atmaiva hyatmano bandhuratmaiva ripuratmana.
Sri Krishna said, always use the power of your mind to uplift or elevate yourself. Never use your mind to degrade yourself, for the mind can be the friend of a conditioned soul as well as his enemy. Shloka 6.
Bandhuratmatmanastasya yenatmaivatmana jita anatmanastu shatrutve varte tatmaiva shatruvat.
The person who has conquered his mind or has his mind under his control, it is their friend. But the person who has failed to do so, the mind acts like an enemy for him. Shloka 7.
Jitatmana prashantasya paramatma samahita शीतोष्ण सुखदुःखेषु तथा मानापमानयो.
The yogi who has conquered his mind is already established in the self or Atman. He rises above the dualities of cold and heat, joy and sorrow, honor and dishonor. Such a yogi always remains tranquil in all circumstances and is steadfast in his devotion to God. Shloka 8.
ज्ञान विज्ञान तृप्तात्मा कूटस्थो विजितेन्द्रिया युक्ता इत्युच्यते योगी समलोष्टाश्मकाञ्चना.
The yogi who is satisfied with jnana or the knowledge of the shastras and vijnana, that is realization of the self, who is immovable and remains undisturbed in all circumstances, who has conquered his senses, for whom mud, stone and gold are the same, is said to be united or harmonized in yoga. Shloka 9.
सुहृन्मित्रार्युदासीना मध्यस्थद्वेष्यबन्धुषु साधुष्वपि च पापेषु समाः बुद्धिर्विशिष्यते.
The yogi who is of equal intellect towards a friend, a companion and a foe does not discriminate between enemies and relatives, and is unbiased between the righteous and the sinful, is considered to be esteemed amongst humans. Shloka 10.
योगी युञ्जिता सततमात्मानं रहस्यस्थिता एकाकी यतचित्तात्मा निराशीरः परिग्रह.
From this verse onwards, the practice of Dhyana Yoga is explained in detail. The Supreme Lord Sri Krishna said, "Those who seek the state of yoga should recite alone in a secluded place, constantly engaged in meditation with a controlled mind and body, free from any kind of desires and without any possessions for enjoyment." Shloka 11.
शुचौ देशे प्रतिष्ठाप्य स्थिरमासनाहमात्मना नात्युच्छ्रितं नातिनीचं चैलाजिना कुशोत्तरम्.
To practice Dhyana Yoga, one should make an asana or seat in a sacred place. This asana is made by placing kusha grass, deer skin and a soft cloth one over the other. This asana should neither be too high nor too low. Shloka 12.
तत्रैकाग्रं मनाः कृत्वा यतचित्तेन्द्रियक्रिया उपविश्यासने युञ्ज्याद्योगमात्मविशुद्धये.
Being seated on the asana, having made the mind one-pointed, controlling the actions of the mind and the senses, let the yogi practice Dhyana Yoga for self-purification. Shloka 13.
समं कायशिरोग्रीवं धारयन्नचलं स्थिरा सम्प्रेक्ष्य नासिकाग्रं स्वं दिशश्चार्णवलोकयन्.
The yogi must hold his body, neck and head firmly in a straight line and gaze at the tip of the nose without allowing the eyes to wander. Shloka 14.
प्रशान्तात्मा विगतभिर्ब्रह्मचारी व्रते स्थिता मनः संयम्य मच्चित्तो युक्त आसीता मत्पराः.
The Supreme Lord Sri Krishna said, "Thus with a serene, fearless and resolute mind and steadfast in the vow of celibacy, the vigilant yogi should meditate on me, having me alone as the supreme goal." Shloka 15.
युञ्जन्नेवं सदात्मानं योगी नियतः मानसा शान्तिं निर्वाणपरमां मत्संस्थामधिगच्छति.
In this manner, keeping the mind constantly absorbed in me, the yogi of disciplined mind attains liberation, that is nirvana or moksha, and abides in me in supreme peace. Shloka 16.
नात्यश्नतस्तु योगोऽस्ति न चैकान्ता मनश्नता न चाति स्वप्नशीलस्य जाग्रतो नैवा चार्जुना.
Sri Krishna said, "O Arjuna, yoga is definitely not for those people who eat too much or who do not eat at all, nor for those who sleep too much or who do not sleep at all. Therefore, all seekers of yoga, especially Dhyana Yoga, should eat and sleep in moderation. Shloka 17.
युक्ताहारा विहारस्य युक्तचेष्टस्य कर्मसु युक्तस्वप्नावबोधस्य योगो भवति दुःखः.
But people who are moderate in eating and recreation, those who exercise balance in work and is regulated in sleep, can eliminate all sorrows by practicing yoga. Shloka 18.
यदा विनियतं चित्तमात्मन्येवावतिष्ठते निःस्पृह सर्वकामेभ्यो युक्त इत्युच्यते तदा.
With thorough discipline, when a person learns to withdraw the mind from all material desires and fix it on the self, then such a person is said to have attained yoga and is free from all yearnings of the senses. Shloka 19.
यथा दीपो निवातस्थो नेङ्गते सोपमा स्मृता योगिनो यतचित्तस्य युञ्जतो योगमात्मना.
In this shloka, the mind of a yogi is compared to a lamp. Just as a lamp in a windless place does not flicker, similarly, the disciplined mind of a yogi remains steady in meditation on the Supreme. Shloka 20.
यत्रो परमते चित्तं निरुद्धं योगा सेवया यत्र चैवात्मनात्मानं पश्यन्नात्मनि तुष्यति.
By the practice of yoga, when the mind, restrained from material activities, becomes absolutely calm and tranquil, then the yogi is able to perceive the soul or the self through this purified mind, and he rejoices in ecstatic joy within. Shloka 21.
सुखः मात्यन्तिकं यत्तद्बुद्धिग्राह्यमतीन्द्रियं वेत्ति यत्र न चैवायं स्थितश्चलति तत्त्वतः.
In that blissful state of yoga called samadhi, one experiences supreme, boundless, divine joy, which is beyond the realm of the senses, and thus situated, one never deviates from the eternal truth. Shloka 22.
यं लब्ध्वा चापरं लाभं मन्यते नाधिकं तथा यस्मिन् स्थितो न दुःखे न गुरुणापि विचाल्यते.
One does not consider any attainment to be greater after having gained that state. Being thus established, one is not shaken or affected by the heaviest sorrow or even in the midst of the greatest calamity. Shloka 23.
तं विद्याद् दुःखाः संयोगवियोगं योगसञ्जितं सनिश्चयेन योक्तव्यो योगो निर्विण्णचेतसा.
It is to be known that the breaking up of the union with pain or misery is yoga, and this yoga should be practiced with determination and with a steady and optimistic mind. Shloka 24.
संकल्प प्रभवान् कामान् त्यक्त्वा सर्वान् शेषतः मनसैवेन्द्रियग्रामं विनियम्य समन्ततः.
One should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with determination and faith without deviating from the path. Giving up all material desires born of sankalpa or mental speculation, one has to control all the five senses that is seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting and touching from all sides by the mind. Shloka 25.
शनै शनैरुपरमेद् बुद्ध्या धृतिगृहीतया आत्मसंस्थं मनाः कृत्वा न किञ्चिदपि चिन्तयेत्.
Slowly, step by step, one should withdraw the mind through the intellect with firm conviction and regularity, and consequently the mind should be fixed on the self or the Atman alone and should think of nothing else. Shloka 26.
यतो यतो निश्चरति मनश्चञ्चलमस्थिरं ततस्ततो नियम्यैतदात्मन्येव वशं नयेत्.
Whenever and wherever the mind wanders due to its restless and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self and continually focus it on God alone. Shloka 27.
प्रशान्तमनसं ह्येनं योगिनं सुखमुत्तमम् उपैति शान्तरजसं ब्रह्मभूतमकल्मषम्.
Great transcendental happiness comes to the yogi whose mind is absolutely tranquil, whose passions are subdued, who is without sin because he is freed from all reactions to past deeds, and who has become one with Brahman and therefore sees everything in connection with God. Shloka 28.
युञ्जन्नेवं सदात्मानं योगी विगतकल्मषः सुखेन ब्रह्मसंस्पर्शमत्यन्तं सुखाहमश्नुते.
Thus, uniting the self with the Supreme, the self-controlled yogi becomes free from material impurities and being in constant touch with the Supreme achieves the highest state of infinite bliss. Shloka 29.
सर्वभूतस्थमात्मानं सर्वभूतानि चात्मनि ईक्षते योगयुक्तात्मा सर्वत्र समः दर्शना.
A true yogi who is established in yoga or who has attained self-realization and has united his consciousness with the Supreme sees everything with an equanimous vision. He sees his self or the Atman in all beings and all beings in his own self. Shloka 30.
यो मां पश्यति सर्वत्र सर्वं च मयि पश्यति तस्याहं न प्रणश्यामि स च मे न प्रणश्यति.
The Supreme Lord Sri Krishna said, "For those yogis who see me everywhere and see all things and all beings in me, I am never lost or invisible to them, nor are they ever lost or invisible to me. Such a yogi is never separated from the Supreme Lord." Shloka 31.
सर्वभूतस्थितं यो मां भजत्येकत्वमास्थिता सर्वथा वर्तमानोऽपि स योगी मयि वर्तते.
The yogi who is established in yoga or oneness with me and worships me as the super soul residing in all beings dwells only in me, although engaged in all kinds of activities. Shloka 32.
आत्मोपम्येन सर्वत्र समं पश्यति योऽर्जुन सुखं वा यदि वा दुःखं स योगी परमो मतः.
The Supreme Lord Sri Krishna said, "O Arjuna, I consider a yogi to be perfect, who sees the true equality of all living beings, because he sees the same Atman in all of them, and regards the joy of others as his own joy, and sorrows of others as if they were his own. Shloka 33.
Arjuna uvacha योऽयं योगस्त्वया प्रोक्ता साम्येन मधुसूदना एतस्याहं न पश्यामि चञ्चलत्वात् स्थितिं स्थिराम्.
Arjuna expressed his concern and said, O Madhusudan, the system of yoga that you have described, that is equanimity of the mind, appears impractical and unattainable to me because of the naturally restless and unsteady nature of the mind. Shloka 34.
चञ्चलं हि मनः कृष्ण प्रमाथि बलवदृढम् तस्याहं निग्रहं मन्ये वायोरिवाह सुदुष्करम्.
Arjuna said, O Krishna, the mind is indeed extremely restless, turbulent, and obstinate. I think controlling it is as difficult as restraining the wind. He compares its regulation to the near impossible task of holding back the wind, emphasizing the challenge of mental equanimity. Shloka 35.
श्रीभगवानुवाच असंशयं महाबाहो मनो दुर्निग्रहं चलम् अभ्यासेन तु कौन्तेय वैराग्येण च गृह्यते.
The Supreme Lord Sri Krishna said, O mighty armed Arjuna, undoubtedly the mind is restless and difficult to control. But, O son of Kunti, it can be conquered through practice and detachment or through vairagya. Shloka 36.
असंयतात्मना योगो दुष्प्रापा इति मे मतिः वश्यात्मना तु यतता शक्यो वाप्तुमुपायतः.
Sri Krishna said that in his opinion, yoga is difficult to attain for the person whose mind is unrestrained. But the person who has controlled his mind and strives diligently by proper means, perfection in yoga is attainable. Shloka 37.
अर्जुना उवाच अयति श्रद्धयोपेतो योगाच्चलितमानसा अप्राप्य योगसंसिद्धिं कामगतिं कृष्ण गच्छति.
Arjuna said, O Krishna, what is the fate of the unsuccessful yogi who begins the path of yoga with faith, but who fails to continue till the end due to an unsteady mind and is unable to attain perfection in yoga in this life? Shloka 38.
कच्चिन्नो भयविभ्रष्टश्छिन्नाभ्रमिवा नश्यति अप्रतिष्ठो महाबाहो विमूढो ब्रह्मणः पथि.
Arjuna continued with his query and said, O mighty armed Krishna, does not such a person, being deviated from the path of yoga, get deprived of both material and spiritual success and perish like a disrupted cloud with no position in any sphere? Shloka 39.
एतन्मे संशयं कृष्ण छेत्तुमर्हस्य शेषता त्वदन्यसंशयस्यास्य छेत्ता न ह्युपद्यते.
Arjuna said, O Krishna, please dispel this doubt of mine completely, for who else can do so other than you? Shloka 40.
श्रीभगवानुवाच पार्थ नैवेह नामुत्र विनाशस्तस्य विद्यते न हि कल्याणकृत् कश्चित् दुर्गतिं तात गच्छति.
The Supreme Lord Sri Krishna said, O Parth, those who strive for God realization never meet with destruction, either in this world or the next. He said, "My dear friend, one who is engaged in performing virtuous acts is never overcome by evil." Shloka 41.
प्राप्य पुण्यकृतां लोकानुषित्वा शाश्वती समा शुचीनां श्रीमतां गेहे योगभ्रष्टोऽभिजायते.
The unsuccessful yogi, upon leaving his body, goes to the planets of the virtuous, and after many years of enjoyment there, is born into a family of righteous people or into a family of rich aristocracy. Shloka 42.
अथवा योगिनामेव कुले भवति धीमताम् एतद्धि दुर्लभतरं लोके जन्म यदीदृशम्.
Or the unsuccessful yogi is born in the family of the yogis endowed with divine wisdom. Verily, a birth like this is very difficult to obtain in this world. Shloka 43.
तत्र तं बुद्धिसंयोगं लभते पौर्वदेहिकं यतते च ततो भूय संसिद्धो कुरुनन्दना.
Lord Shri Krishna said, "O descendant of the Kurus, on taking such a birth, they revived the wisdom and the divine consciousness of their previous lives and strive even better towards perfection in yoga." Shloka 44.
पूर्वाभ्यासेन तेनैव ह्रियते ह्यवशोऽपि सा जिज्ञासुरपि योगस्य शब्दब्रह्माति वर्तते.
By virtue of the divine consciousness of his previous life, he automatically becomes attracted to the yogic principles and feels drawn towards God, even without any kind of effort. Such an inquisitive seeker of yoga always stands above the ritualistic principles of the scriptures. Shloka 45.
प्रयत्नाद्यतमानस्तु योगी संशुद्ध किल्बिषा अनेक जन्म संसिद्धस्ततो याति पराम गतिम.
With the accumulated merits of many births of practice, when these yogis engage in sincere endeavors to make further progress, they become purified after being washed off from all material contamination and finally attain perfection and are able to reach the highest goal. Shloka 46.
तपस्विभ्योऽधिको योगी ज्ञानिभ्योऽपि मत्तोऽधिका कर्मिभ्यश्चाधिको योगी तस्माद्योगी भवार्जुन.
Shri Krishna said, "A yogi is superior to the tapasvi or an ascetic. He is superior to the jnani, that is a person of learning, and even superior to the karmi, that is a person who works hard but with attachment to the results." He said, "Therefore, O Arjuna, in all circumstances be a yogi." Shloka 47.
योगिनांपि सर्वेषां मद्गतेनान्तरात्मना श्रद्धावान् भजते यो मां समे युक्ततमो मतः.
The Supreme Lord said, "Of all yogis, the yogi whose mind and inner self are always absorbed in me, and who worships me with great faith and devotion, I consider him to be the best of all, as he is the most intimately united with me in yoga."
Jai Shri Krishna.